Okay.
And now you're on.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know what that was.
I give you something with this. I'm looking for my little speech. No?
I only got mine. I thought I had it. Oh. Tim, what does your screen look like? What does your screen look like? Yeah, that one. No, this one. Okay, I don't have anything yet.
Touch the keypad. Put nines in it. Four
4
nines.
nines?
Right. And it come up right there. Four nines. Four nines. And enter.
Okay. Now what is the first one? So 2918 Bloomfield is the first one. You can't hear me. Jim, 2918 Bloomfield is the first one. Okay. Who am I missing? Are we waiting on anything? Are we waiting on someone? Are we waiting on someone? Can we start then? Okay. Yes, okay. And so we're not gonna do anything with college. Okay. 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 Okay, y'all ready? We good? Okay. Yeah. I'm good. Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday, May 24th, 2021 hearing of the Macon-Bibb County Planning and Zoning Commission. By now, staff has informed you that you must sign in if you wish to address the commission, including the applicant and their representative or representatives. If you have not signed in and intend to testify, please do so now. If several people are interested in an item, it will be helpful if you confer and coordinate your testimony and allow one or two spokespersons to represent similar concerns to avoid duplication of information. At the beginning of this meeting, all persons who have signed in to testify will be required to stand, raise your right hand, and give an oath to tell the truth. Persons seeking to testify who have not given such an oath at the beginning of this meeting will be required to do so prior to their testimony. Any testimony at this hearing by persons who have not given an oath will not be considered evidence in these proceedings. When your item is called, you and your representative shall take a seat at the table and state your name and address before making your presentation to the commission. After the applicant's presentation, persons speaking in favor of an application will be given an opportunity to speak. We will then ask for comments from those opposed to the application. The applicant will then be allowed an opportunity for rebuttal. We ask that anyone addressing the commission speak clearly and directly into the microphone, as these proceedings are being recorded. Comments from persons not at the table will not become part of the record and are not allowed. Each time you return to address the commission, you must restate your name for the record. Please be advised, both for and against an application is allowed up to 10 minutes to make their presentation. That means 10 minutes per side, not per person. However, each side may request additional time if needed, and the commission will decide whether or not an extension is justified. Each side will be awarded equal time, so any extensions will be the same for both sides. A timer located at the presenter's seat is used to monitor the proceedings. The green light, when lit, indicates time is available to proceed with your presentation. The yellow light indicates that you have 1 minute remaining, and of course the red light indicates time has expired. During or after the presentations, the commission will ask questions. At the end of the presentations by each side, the commission will allow for questions of any persons testifying for that side by persons representing the other side if requested. Such questioning will count against the presentation time allotted for the side asking the questions, provided that the commission shall extend such time as fairness requires. Redundant and or irrelevant testimony of questioning may be limited or terminated by the chair. Hostile questioning which disrupts or interferes with hearing procedures is prohibited and will be terminated by the chair. Questions shall be directed for the purpose of obtaining truthful information for the enlightenment of each side and the commission, not for the purpose of argument. After hearing both sides and after any questioning, the commission will go into deliberations and make a decision. However, the commission may defer or continue the deliberations and or the decision until a subsequent meeting if it determines this is warranted. No further testimony from either side is allowed during the commission's deliberations or vote. We ask that the audience remain quiet during the proceeding and the hearing and respect the dignity of these proceedings. Speaking out from the audience or demonstrations intended to disrupt the hearing will not be tolerated. At this time, we ask everyone in attendance to please silence your phones or any other electronic devices. When there are less than 5 commissioners present, which we have today, we only have 4. This is not a full commission, so therefore, if there is a split vote which fails to achieve a majority, which is 3 votes, either for or against an item, the item will be automatically deferred pursuant to section 27.03 bracket 8 in bracket of the Macon-Bibb County Land Development Resolution. Jim, do we have any changes in today's agenda?
We do have some changes today. Item 1 on Walnut Street, 869 Walnut Street, has been moved to ratification. That's for a certificate of appropriateness. And is there somebody here for 535 College Street? Okay. So item number 5 has been withdrawn.
Okay. Is there anyone here today who would like to defer or withdraw an item that is presently on the agenda? All right. Before we begin hearing the applications on today's agenda, we need to approve the minutes of the last hearing. May I have a motion?
Chair, I move that the minute from the previous meeting be approved.
Second.
We have a motion from Tim and a second from Gary to approve the minutes of our previous meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Minutes approved. All right, now we're going to have our notary public, Sheila Burns, administer the oath. So if you are wanting to address the commission, listen to Sheila. All right, Jim, will you call our first item, please?
Did you want me to go over the changes as far as the order of the agenda?
Yes, please. We have made some changes to the agenda in terms of order to minimize your time here today.
Okay. So we'll hear, the first two items will be on Bloomfield Road. That's item 3 and 4 on the agenda. 2918 Bloomfield. We'll hear those first, and then we will hear 2545 Vineville, and then we'll hear the Fulton Mill Road proposal.
All right, thank you.
So the first item is 2918 Bloomfield Drive. This is a rezoning from planned development commercial to PDR, planned development residential, to allow 26 single-family housing units for the elderly 62 years or older. Kaz Hatcher with River Edge Foundation is the applicant, and number 4 is the conditional use for that same property.
Good day. Thank you very much. Again, I'm Cass Hatcher with the River Edge Foundation. We're proposing to build a 26 units of affordable housing for elderly 62 and older at this property. The property is currently zoned as commercial. We'll recommend to be zoned residential to allow that to happen. This is going to be a HUD-funded project. It's called a Section 202, which is specifically for the elderly. HUD gives you the funding to actually construct these units and also give you operational subsidies to maintain them. We've done several units like this before within Macon. River Edge is one of the largest behavioral health organizations here, and we are happy to provide this opportunity for the elderly to live and age in place in this new property that we're proposing. Am I supposed to say anything else?
All right, we're having a little bit of a technical issue right
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Do we have anyone to speak for or against? Commissioners, do you have any questions first? No one's signed up to speak? Okay. No questions? Okay. Do I have a motion then?
Madam Chair, I move that agenda item number 3, 2918 Bloomfield Road, rezoning from a PDC plan development commercial to PDR plan development residential. To allow for a 26 single family housing unit for the elderly.
All right, Tim's made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Tim and a second by Josh to approve the rezoning of 2918 Bloomfield Drive from PDC to PDR to allow for 26 single-family housing units for the elderly, 62 or older. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried.
About the conditional use.
All right, we now need a conditional use. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to approve agenda item number 4, 2918 Bloomfield Drive conditional use to allow housing for the elderly in the PDC district. Well, PDR district now.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we again have Tim with the motion and Josh with the second to approve a conditional use at 2918 Bloomfield Drive to allow housing for the elderly in a PDR district. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried.
Thank you very
Kathy.
much.
Next item is number 2, 2545 Vineville Avenue. This is a rezoning from HR 1, Historic Residential, to HPD, Historic Plan Development. This is to allow an event space. Ryan Griffin and William Elliott Dunwoody are the applicants. Sure, yeah. Yeah, we'll take it, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Elliot Dunwoody, and I am seeking rezoning to HPD for the flexibility that it offers in this amazing house, 2545 Vineville Avenue. Honeybees is a gathering place. It's some place that I'm seeing as a refuge. It's been a historic refuge for many people in that neighborhood for many years. Definitely since the inspiration to to purchase this house and create this project, I have found that it's been being used in this way for quite a long time. We're offering seasonal programming. There's a pool at the residence, which we think that will be a big focus of the spring and summer seasons. With the pool, we also have decking and another lower yard where we're looking to have people gather. We're wanting to keep this very intentionally low capacity. We understand and recognize that we are in a residential area, and that being kind and quiet for our neighbors is a really important part of that. Our goal is to have an array of events as well in the space, both in the house and outside, depending on when that is seasonally. The variety of events and programmings is meant to mirror the large range of demographics who live within the walking distance of this great home. The success of Honeybees, which is the name that we've given this in honor of Palmyra Braswell, who I discovered grew up in the back house. The success really depends on us having many different groups and many different people in the neighborhood really feeling some ownership of this and really feeling that it's their place. We have a 3-year plan. Year 1 is focused on all the deferred maintenance. There's a pergola in the back that is in the Smithsonian, or a replica of it is in the Smithsonian. This pergola has some structural damage and it's going to need quite a bit of repairs, including actually raising the roof to do so. A lot of deferred maintenance in the house overall. Looking for year 1 to really be, that's our main focus there. Year 2 is about getting to know the neighbors and our customers. We'll be focused on low capacity, high touch service and balancing our own events and club functions with rentals to the public, with a focus on providing incentives to the neighborhood to use it as their own. Days at the pool will be limited to under 45 guests, and we will have special catered food and using other catered events from restaurants around to service the space during that time. Year 3, we do plan on adding a membership program that will include multiple tiers, allowing for those different economic demographics to participate. The membership program will be developed with an emphasis on, though not exclusive to, the Vineville neighborhood. Honeybee's focus is really on being a great neighbor and a community center for the Vineville Historic District. Serving multiple layers of customers with hours of operation will vary throughout the year and will be affected by demand. The policy of Honeybee's is no outdoor music after 9:30 on the weekends, and much earlier than that during the weekdays and then the off months of fall and winter. So a lot of this is sort of why this house. It's been a question that's asked a lot. One is that honestly, it was, I just sort of got swept up in the spirit of the house, is really as honest as I can do it. I wasn't looking for this. I was looking for opportunities in Macon to be with my family, bring my family back here, but this one definitely sort of struck me. Once finding out that the house had been on the market for close to 3 years and that the price had kind of continually been dropping, also learning that many of the people that had looked at the house had been looking at it for commercial purposes and not a lot of single family residents, I started to see an issue presenting itself that perhaps a single family would not be able to purchase the house. And if they were, and it were to drop down at a certain rate, if it got low enough that even if they were able to purchase that house, they might not have the income or the financial stability to repair it. And I really see that it's a benefit having this as an event space to having it as an event space and having it be able to generate revenue is something that would allow for me to not just put in the minimum amount of work, but to continually restore this and really look to have it restored for many years to come. A bit at the beginning, but this house was really made for this. And Rosa Bennett, who saved this house in 1986, she loves the plan. We've been talking to her and her family throughout this. Also the Braswell family with Kristen Grissom. The grandniece of Honeybee is on the advisory board and hopefully will be our general manager should this be able to go through. And there's just a lot of history there, and hearing more and more about the kinds of events that happened, it's just something that we really want to give back to the neighborhood. We are planning on having this as a guest house as well. There are 4 bedrooms upstairs that all have baths. They have, there's also a kitchen upstairs. We'll probably end up doing it so that it's 3 suites instead of 4 bedrooms. Again, keeping it very low capacity, understanding that it has to be low impact in order for it to be successful in the neighborhood. I'm gonna call up Ryan Griffin really, actually to talk a little bit about the impact and property values. Where's the timer? I'm curious. Great, thank you.
No flashing lights.
Hey, I'm Ryan Griffin. I live at 1107 Oglethorpe Street here in Macon. Many of you know me already. I'm going to recap some of what Elliot said. Just to be more specific, there's about $250,000 worth of deferred maintenance on this house. The purchase price is well north of $500,000. And that does not include any remodeling. That's deferred maintenance and purchase price. So anybody looking to move into this house for a single family residence or any other use needs to be prepared for a very, very substantial investment. I like to refer to those as unicorns. Just to name some other uses that represent single family houses in our community that have been adapted to this sort of use, I'd like to bring, y'all all know the Burke Mansion on George Avenue, I believe it is, the 1842 Inn, the Allman Brothers Museum, Washington and Vineville Commons. Mercer has countless of these. The Porter House on Wesleyan College, the Hay House, Sidley Lanier Cottage, which just a year ago we were fighting about keeping it an event space. It is my firm belief, as I consider myself a real estate expert. I'm a general contractor, I'm a real estate broker, I'm an investor, I spent some time as an appraiser. I own over 20 houses, old historic houses and properties around Macon. I consider myself a real estate expert, particularly here in Macon, and it is my firm belief that this is the highest and best use of this piece of property. I'll give it back to Elliot.
So just real quick, understanding that the Vineville Neighborhood Board, who I spoke with throughout this process, can I have the time too really quick, Randy, just so I know? Who I spoke to throughout this process. Excellent, thank you. They are opposed. They are here. They're going to speak in opposition. I would just like to say a little bit about what success looks like to me for this. I really think that the way that I had to go about doing this was not ideal. I currently live in California. I've been looking for a way to come back during this time. And the way that I had to go about doing this and the fact that the purchase of the house is actually tied to this hearing. And the reason being is because I do not believe that I would be able to do everything that I want to do to the house as a single family residence. And because of where it is, I personally do not want my family to live at that spot. I want to spend a bunch of time there. I want to build it up, but I don't think that we would be able to do that. So I did have to go about this in a way. And in some ways, I do apologize to the neighborhood and to the neighborhood association for sort of just smacking down in here. And I do hope that if we are able to, if this is approved, that we're able to start over in a lot of ways, and knowing that conditional use is still something that we'll have to speak about in the future. And I hope that I can get a chance to really earn the trust of the neighborhood. Another few things for this is around what success looks like outside of Kristen Grissom becoming the general manager, which is a really big part, and she was going to be here to speak but was unable to because of her children today. Looking to find a way to work with the neighborhood, overcoming obstacles presented by those that are opposing it. I am listening to all of their concerns. Really looking at small gatherings being the core of the programming and things that aren't necessarily producing a lot of sound. It turns out that I've learned from the neighbors that maybe having an a cappella gospel group in the yard every Sunday isn't what everyone wants. And I'm open to listening to that and opening to changing some of the programming. For me, this is really a foot into Macon. I have a lot of big ideas and look forward to being able to see those come to fruition. Thank you very much.
Hang on just a minute, Elliot. I have a question. Do you have, or does Ryan have knowledge of this property being used for other things prior to its closing here? Prior to, while it was still occupied, was it used for other things other than a single family house?
It has always been since single family, since the zoning has been, which I believe was after the house was owned, it has been a single family residence, yes. There have been a lot of events there, and a lot of events, fundraisers, parties, historic home tours every year. It hasn't been that way for some time because Rosa Bennett still lives there. She's 93, I think, or yeah. So they've calmed down the events. But
Okay. I went to a wedding there at one time. That's why I was asking.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I mean, there's always been things. I mean, there's been weddings, there's been events. Yes, it has never been zoned for this, but yes, it has a very, very long history of events that go back to the 30s there
Okay.
in that home. Yeah.
All right. All right, gentlemen, do you have any questions for Mr. Dunwoody? Now?
I
Maybe
do.
later?
I think everybody does.
There's some information in the packet given to the commission about the agreement you have with the church for the parking.
Sir.
Would you kind of go a little bit into that, and so we can get an idea of, because that's an important part of what you're asking for.
Absolutely. So, so what you have is the beginnings of. I mean, it is the agreement. We haven't signed the agreement or done anything, waiting for this hearing. But it is an agreement that was approved by by Vineville Baptist Church that has a $700 a month rental for parking spaces with the ability to have more parking spaces should I need it if things were to if we were to have an event like a market or some holiday thing where a lot of other people were coming. I worked very closely with the church, with Lynn Heinzman, spoke with Dr. Kremer, Pastor Kremer, and had a lot of good talks with them about being able to, it being a mutually beneficial agreement with the church. Do anything other than that? I mean, I'm also going to do some work there in the parking lot for their handicap, for their ADA areas, and make things a little easier for them in that space.
So, but the execution of any agreement is completely contingent on what we do here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talked about the operational hours during the weekdays. You say earlier closing time. What is your thinking? What time?
Dark, is as late as I really want to go during the weekdays, and I'm thinking it would be something more like 7 o'clock during the weekdays, in the non-summer months. Which I don't think it's going to even be open every day, other than the guest house. I think the real issue is the pool and the proximity that the pool has to other neighbors, and that pools can be very loud. And in that way, it would still be 7:30 or 8 o'clock on the weekdays, and then no later than 9:30 on the weekends.
So as an event center, do you think it's practical that you be able to close down by 8:30 during the weekday for community events, what have you?
I think it's going to be it's going to require that I do so in order to maintain a good relationship with my neighbors.
I got a question about that. So, I mean, we're a group of volunteers. We're just community residents and volunteers. You've gotten formal opposition from the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation, Historic Macon Foundation, and the Vineville Neighborhood Association. So why are you comfortable asking us to do it anyway? To rezone it anyway, despite that opposition?
My contract for purchasing the house is dependent upon me showing up here today, and so it is. The way that I went about this, because I wasn't going to buy it as a single family home, was that before making the purchase, I talked with some of or before putting in the offer, I spoke with the Vineville Neighborhood Association. I spoke with multiple people in the neighborhood. It sounded like there was a path forward for me. During due diligence, I spoke again. It still felt like there was a path forward for me. At the moment that I went into contract, I tied the contract to protect me as best that I could to the rezoning being HPD. So once that happened, it wasn't until a month ago or so or less that it started to shift on me. I think I was at a disadvantage for not being able to be here as much as I would have liked to. It could have been that there was an echo chamber of people that I was talking to that were really giving me the support that I was kind of charging forth. It seems like a very crazy, amazing, obvious idea to me, but I recognize that that's not the case to the neighbors. So I'm here before you today, really honoring my legal obligation so as not to be in default of a contract and lose the earnest money and the other money that is involved in that.
Okay, I got another question. The parking agreement you've got is cancelable by either party in 30 days.
Correct.
What happens to the function of the business if the church decides to cancel your parking?
It would be something that I would have to shut down the event portion of my of the business. Anything that wasn't, a big part of this for me is that it would be walkable and bikeable, and and that for the neighborhood. But yes, it would be a devastating loss, and I think that if anything only is an incentive for me to maintain good relationships with the people around me. Yes.
At some point, somebody had mentioned a relationship with the house behind the pool.
Yes.
Do you have a formal relationship with that house, that specific house?
I have spoken with 119 Hines, the Lane House. Yes. So I have spoken with Chris Mitchell, the owner. He lives in Arkansas. I've spoken with the Moores, who are the current renters. And it is my goal to move my family into the neighborhood. The Lane House and what I refer to as the Anderson House or the Bennett House. When it was the Andersons and the Lanes, that was all one compound. They had a clay tennis court. They had badminton courts and a little chip and putt and the whole thing back there, as it was like a little mini sea island almost, which is sort of the inspiration around why this stuff is coming up. So being able to lease or potentially discussing the purchase of 119 Hines is something that I would be very interested in should this continue forward.
You talked in your proposal here, the revenue stream, you talked about membership, and also you talked about riding up and walking up from the neighborhood. So would that not be a conflict? You're inviting the neighborhood in, but at the same time saying you must be a member? Is that what you're saying?
I personally have experience of going to places that are members only, that allow for the public to attend as well during certain times, and it's really a programming matrix of being able to provide both. That there are an array of memberships, not just a single one, because I know that is a very it's a very rich array of demographics that are happening in that neighborhood, and that it's not going to be one size fits all, and that if I'm really going to be as inclusive as I would like to be, and as we are hoping to be, that it's going to take finding different ways for us to have member-only times, for us to have incentives for members that might include programming or other types of content. It can include special dinners. It could include a whole vast array of things, which is what I do as a profession now. So I'm not coming up with the ideas around how to service that. It's not something that will be an issue for me personally. And then creating other times where the public can come in as well, so that it is enjoyed by others. You have that through the guest house, that the guest house will be a public space, and those staying at the guest house, which might be anywhere from 3 to maybe 6 people, which is a very low impact, those people would then have access to the pool during member times as well. It's almost like you're having the membership by getting by having a guest pass, not unlike how a boutique hotel works, or a small villa in a resort town or anything like that.
Okay, gentlemen? All right, thank you, Mr. Dunwoody.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone to speak?
We
Oh.
do.
We do.
Brad Coman? Coman?
There was the map of the neighborhood association, the zoning map, and then
Would
a
you
letter
please,
from the-
first of all, give us your name and address for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
And then speak into the microphone, please.
Sure. Thank you all for allowing me to speak today. My name is Brad Coman. I live on Rogers Avenue, and I'm the president for the Historic Pineville Neighborhood Association, which I'm here representing today. I submitted a letter on behalf of the membership several weeks ago, which I hope you all have had an opportunity to read, which is one of the items that I gave to you all. I also have with me a letter of support from the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation and a copy of the zoning map for the neighborhood, which I'm sure that you all are very familiar with. In late February of this year, Mr. Dunwoody was introduced to us after being told that he would need the support of the Neighborhood Association in order to be successful in getting approval for this venture. He was invited to attend our March board meeting and attended the April and May meetings as well before he asked the board for a vote on the proposal. We were welcoming to Mr. Dunwoody, offering our comments and questions, carefully reviewing all the updates as they were provided, and generally making sure that Mr. Dunwoody had every opportunity to be heard as well as hear all of our concerns. Mr. Dunwoody told the board at the first March meeting and several times since that if the board and the Neighborhood Association did not support his plan, then he would not move forward because, in his words, the success of this business is reliant on the support of the neighborhood and the Neighborhood Association, and first and foremost, this business was for us. At the May 5th, 2021 meeting, the board voted to oppose the proposal, a vote that the board did not take lightly. There are a number of obvious concerns that the board has that resulted in that vote, all of which were communicated to Mr. Dunwoody throughout the process. The first concern being that if this property were cherry-picked and allowed to be rezoned commercial, it would set a dangerous precedent for the other residential homes along the Vineville corridor, some of which are currently experiencing changes in ownership. We already see how this has affected other historic homes in Macon when we look along Vineville Avenue just outside the boundaries of this neighborhood. The board also feels that this change would cause the neighbors on Hines Terrace to see a dramatic increase in traffic, as vehicles will inevitably go from Ingleside Avenue to avoid the congestion on Vineville Avenue, which I'm sure that anybody that has tried to take a left-hand turn off of Hines onto Vineville could attest to. Adding an event venue with a 200-plus person capacity can only stand to exacerbate those issues. This proposal also includes a temporary solution for parking, which you all mentioned earlier. for only a portion of the property's capacity and does not address the solution for parking should Vineville Baptist close or move or decide that they don't want to be part of that agreement anymore. Additionally, the board feels that the proposed renovations to the home, including turning its rare historic pergola, which we also heard about earlier, into a cafe and adding a commercial kitchen, would make it more difficult for the home to sell as a single-family residence in the future should the proposed business not be successful. On November 11th, the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation placed the Vineville Corridor, which includes the property at 2545 Vineville Avenue, on its 2021 list of historic places in peril in Georgia. This area of Vineville Avenue represents the most intact section of historic Vineville and anchors the historic Vineville neighborhood along its busiest corridor. Pressure from increased traffic and commercial development has significantly impacted the character of the street and the quality of the entire neighborhood. The board is glad to have received the recognition from the Georgia Trust and have been working diligently with the Georgia Trust, Historic Macon Foundation, and our neighbors to use the resources now available to us to help preserve and protect historic Vineville and make it an even better place to live. To zone a property in this corridor as commercial, we feel would be a step backwards for the preservation work that the board and the Georgia Trust is supporting. As I mentioned, the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation has provided a letter supporting the board in opposing the rezoning of this property, which I've provided you all as well. This home is undoubtedly one of the most architecturally and historically significant homes in the neighborhood, and we feel confident that with the right realtor and price point that the home would be able to sell as a single-family residence, which we feel is supported by the real estate market that we've seen in the neighborhood in recent years, which has seen large homes on Vineville such as this sell many times sight unseen to buyers that are relocating to Macon from cities where they have seen this same mistake happen time and time again and ruin other historic residential neighborhoods. It seems that there's still a lot of uncertainty when it comes to this proposal. Where do the dumpsters go? Where are the grease traps emptied? Where do the delivery trucks go? Not to mention that the proposal does not serve any need of the immediately surrounding neighborhood. Though some would like, this will not end up being a full-time neighborhood pool club. It will end up being whatever allows the business to make the most money, as is such for any business, whether that be weddings, live music, other large events. And as the proposal for the venture has changed over and over again throughout the last several months, we haven't been given any reason to think otherwise. While neighbors were once told that if they did not want this, it would not happen, now they're being told that others that do not live in the neighborhood know what's best for the neighborhood, despite the wishes of its residents, many of whom have families that have lived in the neighborhood and sometimes in the same home going back several generations. Everyone that I've spoken to is in agreement that this is a great, exciting idea for a business that we would love to be able to support, but not in this location, surrounded by families that were very intentional in purchasing homes where they did. We would love nothing more than for Mr. Dunwoody and his family to purchase this home with his plans of preserving it and keeping it as a single-family residence and be a part of our great neighborhood. We would welcome him with open arms, but the neighborhood cannot support what is currently proposed for this property. In closing, I'd like to point out that the Vineville Neighborhood Association is undoubtedly the largest and most active neighborhood association in Macon and works tirelessly to help our neighbors, encourage community, and preserve the integrity of our historic residential neighborhood and the beautiful historic homes in it. The board has been glad to hear that since the membership was notified of the board's vote, that the overwhelming majority of the association membership, the greater neighborhood, and our county commissioner, Seth Clark, have all been in support of the board's vote. We hope that we hope that you will support that vote and the neighborhood's work to support and encourage historic preservation in historic Vineville by opposing this change in zoning. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
In your discussions, are there any changes that the developer could make to earn the support of the neighborhood association, or is a single-family private residence the only option that would please the neighborhood association?
I think that there are the neighborhood association has a 24-member board that's elected by its membership and is pretty representative of the entire neighborhood. And I won't say that this vote to oppose this was unanimous. There are some people that have supported it, and there are members that oppose it for varying reasons. But I think that what we have heard the most is that they would oppose any rezoning to commercial in that same location. Now, I have heard from some that have said, well, if it was just a bed and breakfast, we could get behind that. I think that in the staff write-up for this, we saw that it made mention that it was a seasonal event space, but there are proposed events for every season. So it's not like it's gonna be a pool club and then it's gonna, close and it's just gonna be an Airbnb. There's things that are proposed for every season. And the only people that we have heard that really support it, I think some are just very optimistic and they want to give Mr. Dunwoody the opportunity to, hope that it works out. But many that we have seen have said, well, there's a pool there. It's a pool club. We would love to be able to walk down the street with our children and jump in the pool. But I don't think that that's realistic based on what's been presented to us, that they would just be able to walk down there and hop in the pool, whenever they wanted to. But from many that we have heard from, they have said that they would oppose any change in zoning because, like I mentioned, they fear that this would be a domino effect and that the other houses along Vineville would end up doing the same, and it would just be, Vineville Avenue would just be nothing but, commercial businesses. Because as I mentioned, you can look from the Academy of the Blind to Forest Hill. All those historic homes are doctors' offices, lawyers' offices, businesses. Well, thank you.
Okay, how much time do we have left for?
3 minutes and 25 seconds.
All right, we got 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Who's next?
Pickling?
I'm Jan Beeland at 2486 Vineville Avenue. My husband Robbie and I have lived on Vineville Avenue, the same corridor designated by the Georgia Trust as places in peril, for 32 years, longer than anyone except Mrs. Rosa Bennett. Those of us who live on this corridor from Pinona Piers to Buckingham have invested significant dollars to renovate and restore our architecturally historic homes. Vineville was annexed to the city of Macon in 1904. During this period, farms and plantations were subdivided and the side streets off Vineville laid out 117 years ago. We owe it to our forefathers to preserve this neighborhood for its HR1 status. Visually, as Brad has said, you can ride south on Vineville from Forest Hill Road to Pinona Pierce and see what happens when one designation causes a domino effect. Again, we owe it to this neighborhood to not let this happen. Please do not rezone. Thank you.
Regina Sweeney?
Good afternoon. My name is Regina Sweeney and I live at 125 Hines Terrace. And other than Jan, we're relatively newcomers to the neighborhood. We've been there for 5, almost 6 years. And Ryan made a comment earlier that, this kind of purchaser is a unicorn. Well, I just want to turn over here, and right sitting over here is a posse of unicorns. We are all people who have come to that neighborhood recognizing its historic importance, its beauty, and its sense of neighborliness. I can call on my neighbors right and left, and this is just one instance of how we will come together in order to protect our neighborhood and in the best interest of everybody that has chosen to call it home. This is a commercial development that's being suggested, but for everybody else sitting here, this is our home. And we rest on the shoulders of those who came before us, circle after circle of recycling those homes. They go into a little bit disrepair. We come in, we spend too much money, we bring them back. That's what we do. That's what we have chosen to do, and we're here in mass in opposition to any change in the zoning. Even though it might be permitted, even though the uses might be okay, it's not what the neighborhood wants. And you as our representatives for the people who live in this community, I ask you to join us in opposition. Thank you.
How much we got, time we got?
Seconds. Finkelstein? Will Finkelstein? Everyone who's signed up in opposition. I've got two other people, but I'm not sure if they were in opposition or, Taylor Peacock, were you favor or opposition? Okay. Jimmy Johnson, you in favor? Okay. So that's all.
Okay.
We have a 3-minute rebuttal. Can return for a rebuttal?
Yeah, you can come back up and respond to anything you've heard today.
I think we'll split our time again. Just a couple things I'd like to point out. Just want everybody to recognize there's a lot of risk in passing up a good opportunity for a unicorn to buy this house and fix it up. We've seen over and over and over again, I have in my efforts at Historic Macon, opportunities like this being passed up. Well, actually, no, I haven't. They rarely get passed up because we all fear the worst case scenario, which is more deferred maintenance and the lesser chance of finding somebody to do this. Respectfully, Regina and Jan, if this building were in the middle of Hines Terrace, it'd be a different analysis than it being on a 4-lane U.S. highway. I looked at the house as an investor before Elliot ever was in town for the holidays, with the potential of turning it into an Airbnb, and I decided it was too much for me to bite off. And I love all the services provided to me by my neighborhood of Bells Hill in the way of Yola, which is as it has live music, and Mercer Village and Ingleside Village for this neighborhood. So anyway, I think that this could be an asset to the neighborhood that could help preserve other houses within the streets flanked by Vineville and Ingleside. I really do think it could be an asset and help sell and save a lot of those other houses.
I just have a couple just quick points. The capacity, I think the 200 plus capacity that was mentioned is a little bit of a misunderstanding based on the presentation that was given. It was actually for an event that was only for 75 people. There was just multiple places that they could sit. I recognize that having that many people in the space is not conducive to the neighborhood, except for big special events like Christmas time and Halloween and things of that nature. Also around the commercial kitchen, I'd just like to say that I recognize that there is still the issue of conditional use, and that should this get approved, I am still very open to speaking with the neighborhood about the use of the space, my timelines that would be used, and the nice thing about this home is that it actually is so magical, so beautiful, so incredible that there is a lot of flexibility with it. And I have changed and morphed the different kinds of things that I would like to do in the space. A lot of that is as I hear from the neighbors. A lot of that is as I hear from what people are looking for. And I would like to continue to do that and be able to have the flexibility to service the customers that the home would have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who needed to ask questions? All right, questioning closed. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts? Tim?
I got a lot of them. Do you want me to start off?
Yeah, go right ahead, Josh.
My personal beliefs here are that the neighborhood association has gotten this wrong. I think this is an asset to the neighborhood. I think it's something that would add value. And from a preservation perspective, I think this is the most likely scenario to generate the resources to sustain the physical structure of the architecture. I think too often we're gatekeeping based on use, and I think mixed use is one of the things that drives a lot of preservationists into these neighborhoods with historic houses. I feel like the battle for Vineville was lost when we turned it into a highway. I would love to join a fight to have it restored, sidewalks, bike lanes, and less traffic. But I can't imagine my family living in this house as a single family home for any amount of money, even if I could buy it for 50 grand. And it's an architectural treasure and one of my favorite houses in Macon. But, you know, looking at a use that's going to preserve the actual materials, make reversible changes, provide the income to maintain what is a very grand home, seems to me like a real win. Now, by the same token, Mr. Dunwoody, I think you're asking way too much of this commission. I think you need to do a lot more and harder work to win over at least a plurality of the neighborhood, or to at least be able to demonstrate the portion you have won over. I think the intensity of uses is probably too much, right? You know, if you could start with something that you could win the trust and hopefully increase that programming over time. I just have trouble with this level of opposition seeing a path for you to run a successful business in the neighborhood with the people closest to you this alienated already. And then probably the biggest thing for me is the parking agreement. 30 days. 30 days is nothing and you lose a business model. I've got some real reservations about that. So I'm obviously very conflicted about it. I mean, from a perspective of being a steward of the community's land use as a whole, I think on balance this would be an improvement to Macon to have this here. But at the same time, I really think you're asking a lot of this commission to overrule this many people. You know, if neighbors could get along, I'm not sure we would need to be here at all.
Right.
And our meetings would certainly be much shorter, right? If people could just get along without us arbitrating these disputes. So, I mean, I guess I'm disappointed on a lot of different sides, but I sure would love to see something that could enable something close to your vision that the neighborhood, that at least a plurality of the neighborhood could live with. And I think it's absolutely necessary to have a longer-term agreement on the parking use. I mean, a 6-month cancellation may be something that might work. But, I mean, that would really suck. 30 days notice, you've got no parking, no business model, and the whole neighborhood's pissed off at you. That's a pretty difficult set of obstacles to overcome. Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, Josh, I think you said it well. A lot of things you said, most of the things you said I agree with. I have also concern with the letter from the Georgia Trucks and the Historic Macon Society. Those folks have much more expertise than I in terms of preservation, what have you. And so I defer to them and their expertise and their knowledge. Also, I go to the parking again. I don't know the structure of Vineville Baptist Church, but it was like most Baptist churches, it changes from time to time. Ministers change, the board of trustees change, and decisions are made according to the environment at the time. So I don't know how good that agreement would be in terms of sustainability over time. Also, I have a big concern about the peace and quietude of the surrounding neighbors. The folks purchase their home and with the attitude that they'll be in a neighborhood. The Vineville Homeowners Association seem to be one of the most active, if not the most active in the community in support and try to preserve their neighborhood. And if they are in such opposition of it, I don't know how I could personally support it. Given that they're against it, the Georgia Trust, Historic Macon. And I understand the structure and the value of it to Macon, the cost it was to try to preserve it, but at the same time, my concern is the existing neighborhood.
Gary?
I agree with Josh and Tim. I think it's distinctive that this particular property sits at the corner of Vineville and Hines Terrace, which offers ingress, egress to the property that is not available if it's sat abutting two other homes, and this request was made. I think it's the highest and best use. This property's been on the market for 3 years. And it's reasonably priced for the value, the historic nature, and all the attributes of this home. But it sits where it sits, right at the corner of Hines Terrace and Vineville. And that's why I think it's appropriate that there's a use similar to what Elliott has proposed for this property. And again, the letters we got, I've been in politics a long time. I don't pay much attention to those. Anybody can write anything. You get anybody to agree to it. So I'm looking at the attributes and the plan put forward. I'm not certain how we're going to vote today, but I would like to make a motion that we approve the rezoning for this particular property, and we can get it out on the we can get it out on the table right now.
All right. I'll hold that in mind, but I am an appraiser. I'm a commercial real estate appraiser, and I believe that the highest and best use of this property is very similar to what Mr. Dunwoody is wanting to do here. I'm a member of Vineville Baptist Church, and I know that they would welcome this, and they will provide the parking as best they can, and will go into an agreement with Mr. Dunwoody. But one of my greatest concerns, or the greatest concern that I have for this property, is that we're going to lose it. If it sits there, Ms. Bennett still lives there, did you tell me? You know, she's up in age. What's going to happen when she's no longer there? What's going to happen if it sits there for a long period of time? It already needs a lot of work. So I'm concerned about the house itself, the property itself. We've lost too many gems in Macon, and if we don't do something, we're going to lose this one. And I think Mr. Dunwoody needs to be careful about what he does. And needs to take the neighbors into consideration in anything he does. But I'm in favor of letting him at least move forward with this.
Madam Chair, could we clarify a couple things? Just make sure I understand, and I'm sure everybody else in the room is interested. One thing is if we do a HPD, which is the rezoning he's asked for, there is nothing available by right after that. Is that correct?
There is not.
Right. So only the plan that he proposes is the only use he can have for the house without coming back.
Correct.
Right. So I mean, we're not talking about a permanent change that makes uses available in perpetuity that are automatic.
Yeah, it's not like we're just saying this is a commercial property or C1 or C2 or whatever. They could do. This would be a planned development.
And then, Jim, what's the next step? I mean, if we were to approve the HPD rezoning, what's Mr. Dunwoody got to do to actually close on the property and open the business?
He would have to apply for the conditional use that would go into all the details that we've been talking about. It would lock down the parking and all the uses. And then that's the point where you can impose any conditions or limits that you would feel necessary to maintain the property. That would be at a public hearing, just like this. And once approved, then he would move into permitting, and he'd be working with all the other departments regarding, you know, if it's food service, the health department, the Georgia DOT for access from Vineville, and be standard permitting at that point. So if approved, if the rezoning is approved, he's got to file an application, get more detail on what he wants to do and how he's going to do it, and he would come back to a public hearing and try to get that approved.
What if the commission failed to approve a conditional use?
HPD.
But no use is available. So what would it be? It'd have to remain vacant.
It would be the rezoning is is permanent until it's changed again, if ever.
So if it were to refer to a single-family dwelling, they would have to come back to,
Technically, that's right, yeah. I mean, that,
You could apply for a conditional use as a single-family
Sure.
dwelling
yeah.
or rezone it back.
Okay.
And
Any
what
oth-
would be the schedule for the conditional use?
So it's basically a 26-day cycle. Yeah, so the first hearing, if you approve the rezoning today, the next hearing for a conditional use will be June 28th. That would be available schedule-wise for him to bring it.
Well, let me. My
Go ahead.
thinking's refining as we talk, but my belief is that maintaining the single family zoning is a mistake. So I'd be willing to give Mr. Dunwoody a shot at doing better on a conditional use permit to see if he can win over some of his neighbors on a refined plan, and certainly refining the parking.
Well, we know that it's been on the market for 3 years and there's been no takers on a single-family use. So I agree with you. I'm willing to give him a chance.
I want to be very clear with everyone in the room that it's a chance. That my support for a conditional use would be predicated on you winning more support and adapting your plans to do so. So I just want to be on the record that's my
Okay,
current thinking.
All right. Okay.
I will second Commissioner Bechtel's motion.
All right. I'm going to ask you to chime in here. We have a motion from Mr. Beckel, and we have a second from Mr. Rogers, based on conditions.
I don't think there are any conditions.
Okay,
I think I'll
just-
grant the rezoning.
Okay, all right. To rezone the property at 2545 Vineville Avenue from HR1 to HPD to allow an event space, is what this says. All right, so all in favor say, no ma'am. No. The only reason that I said event space, because that's what's on my agenda here. But
Reason you're rezoning it.
that's the reason we're rezoning. It doesn't mean.
To accommodate that use,
All right,
potentially accommodate that use.
Right.
all right. Have I got it all in there? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. All right, we got 3-1, so it's approved. Do we have we have one item for ratification?
We got to hear another one.
Fulton Road.
Pardon?
Mill Road.
Oh, Fulton Mill Road. Okay, we're going to let these people leave, and then we will take the next item. Okay, Jim.
Okay, the next item is item number 6, 4031 Fulton Mill Road. This is a rezoning from agricultural to PDE, Planned Development Extraordinary District. This is to allow a mixed-use development. Larry Baleski with the Macon Investment Holdings and Wendy Sherlock with Upward Construction are the applicants. And item number 7 is actually a conditional use for the conceptual approval and final site plan approval for a 95 lot single family subdivision. Same applicant with the PDE pending, so it'd be phase 1 of their total project.
I'm Wendy Sherlock with Upward Construction at 7250 Alexander Court in Macon.
I'm Larry Bielski, representing Macon Investment Holdings, 60 Service Lane, Ringgold, Georgia, our new address.
And we are here before you today to request rezoning of approximately 182 acres. It is located at the intersection of the south intersection of Eisenhower Parkway and Fulton Mill Road. It is currently zoned agricultural, but is not currently being farmed, or, there's no livestock, it's just vacant land. The developers and owners wish to develop this property in phases over a course of many years, with the first phase being residential lots, just single-family homes that a builder would come in and build spec homes on 95 residential lots. It would have a clubhouse, tennis courts, possibly a pool, a small area for amenities for the residents of the subdivision. That is the portion of the development that is also the request for conditional use. The remaining tracts of land in the overall larger tract would be developed in the future coming years, not right away, but we need to rezone the entire tract to PDE since it is all one parcel of land. There was a pre-development meeting between the owners and the zoning staff back in January, and then we also had a second meeting with them, I believe it was last month, and some questions were put forth to us, namely a traffic study for the area, a possible redesign of the junction of Fulton Mill Road and Dixon Road. Right now it's a little triangle of land that is probably not the smartest, intersection. Whether we needed GDOT approvals for the entrance on Eisenhower Parkway, Macon Water Authority approvals, a hydrology study, relocating one of the subdivision entrances, and some elevations for the future buildings. We addressed those concerns with the traffic engineer that as we get into the future phases 2 through 8, that at that point we would conduct a traffic study because of one entrance to the land being on Eisenhower Parkway. We also agreed that the main entrance for those future phases would, as part of this rezoning, it is going to remain where it is, and that cannot be changed because that is tied into reconfiguring the small triangle that is Fulton Mill Road and Dixon Road. So that has been agreed to by the developers. That would remain as is, and that area would be redesigned. The GDOT approvals would also come with the entrance on Eisenhower Parkway because it is a state route, have an XL lane and a decel lane. The Macon Water Authority, of course, we would be required to provide a full civil drawing package for the sewer extension. There's a water main currently on Fulton Mill Road that could be accessed for the lots, but the sewer is actually closer to the intersection of Eisenhower, so we have to get sewer from that sewer easement on the property down to the residential lots, and we have worked out a way with Macon Water Authority to access sewer. As part of our package, we did include a drawing of how the sewer would get there. Hydrology study would also be completed as part of the civil package when that is addressed as the subdivision infrastructure is designed in phase 1. At the suggestion of the zoning staff, we did relocate one of the entrances to the 95 lots north onto Fulton Mill Road so that it does not impact that small triangle, so that the residential lots do not have people coming in and out all in that same vicinity where the future phases would have their major entrance. Elevations of the future apartments and the senior living, the retail, all that would be addressed as each conditional use is put forth for those remaining phases in the coming years.
Okay.
Add?
Thank you.
I just want to add that.
Would you please give us your name again, please?
Larry Bielski,
Thank you.
representing Macon Holding Investments.
All right.
I just want to add that the architectural design, which is obviously going to be down the road, we've presented home designs of what you can expect to see on residential lots. But we're involved right now in assisted living centers. We've got two of them approved and 2 more on the boards besides what we have planned here for the future. Those have been through zoning and are moving forward in the design phase. Those are one's in Atlanta, one's in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. We are hotel design developers. We have a Marriott Spring Hill in Fayetteville, Wood Spring Suites in Duluth, Georgia. We've got Wood Spring and extended stay in Huntsville, Alabama, Tampa, Florida. So our background in hotels is extremely strong. And I say that in that we see the potential for a hotel, probably just one hotel, but we're talking about a nice hotel. Everything here, if the investment group that's going to put the money into this is going to put money into good, strong design and work with any of the conditional uses, conditions that are set forth regarding whether it's brick, stone, stucco, combination of materials, but the intent is to have a good, strong community and a good, strong development that encompasses the apartments, the assisted living, the senior living, the memory care, future commercial. So we know present a good product. The area being that it's surrounded by a lot of agricultural, and in my opinion, it isn't that much agricultural. When I look at the zoning map that's there now, agricultural properties are going to soon or later be absorbed and developed. They're vacant lands, and we want to step in and be part of your future land use plan. I think that's all I have to add, but we appreciate you taking our project into consideration.
Thank you very much. Any questions before we call for others? Do we have any?
Quick question. You mentioned working with the Macon Water Authority, and there's evidently a sewer easement near Eisenhower Parkway. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. How much elevation change would it require? A lift station or anything?
It would require. Excuse me. It would require crossing a creek with piers. We had discussed
so they could maintain. It could still be gravity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
To our best, without fully, designing it as civil engineers, which I am not, but laying it out in very rough plans, it would just be a gravity-fed system.
Okay.
And we had talked about a couple of different...
Which are much cheaper.
Yes. Well, we had discussed a couple of options for getting across. One was possibly suspending the pipe on the side of the bridge that crosses over the creek. And anyway, we ended up coming up with the best possible scenario would just be to cross the creek on piers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions, gentlemen? Do we have anyone else to speak, Randy?
Not in favor.
Tim has a question.
You got?
Tim had a question.
I'm just curious, what is the long-range calendar for the full development of these 2 parcels?
In our discussions and our thoughts on that, it could be anywhere from a 5-year plan to an 8-year plan. And certainly a lot of things affect that, besides economy and development. but the investors are serious about moving forward with this project soon, particularly with the residential units.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just add one more thing. I was asked to reach out to the animal shelter, the Bibb Animal Shelter. I left messages at 7 different phone numbers and didn't get any callbacks, but I did reach out. I did reach out to Central State Prison, and all I got was call the main office, but they couldn't tell me where or who that was, or, so I made an attempt, and to just say, you know, we've got plans.
Okay.
So they may be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you say we did or did not?
We have several in opposition.
Okay, thank you. You'll have an opportunity to come back.
Mike Rattery?
I live at 4215 Fulton Mill Road. My name is Mike Rattery. I said it backwards.
That's all right.
My biggest concern is I appreciate y'all listening to our problems on Fulton Mill Road, because we do have a few of them there. But the one that I'm really worried about is our traffic. Fulton Mill Road is not a wide road. It does not have walking space beside it. We have number of accidents where they're fixing to build the housing projects on the curve. We have 2 fatalities in the last 6 months there. It's you're putting 93 more, 96 more houses there, plus the motel, plus I think there was a center in it, a welcome center or whatever, a senior citizen in there. And I just don't think that the bridge is not going to take it, because one way it's like running over a speed breaker now. It's done sunk down so much. Next thing is, in 1994, we had a flood. I know everybody remembers that. The land that they putting these houses on was underwater. Because I live with about 300 to 400 yards from where they building their first. I live right across the dog pound, if you want to know the truth, dog wilderness center, right dead in front of it. But I did get along with that. But I do not get along with the motel and the housing projects. I don't say Macon don't need growth, don't get me wrong. But I just think what happened is there's too many houses being built on a small piece of land. And it's not, I think they, like Warner Robins has 0 lots. I don't think there's too many, the lots is not big enough to maintain.
All right, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Tom Maxwell. I live at 4536 Maynard's Mill
Can you
Road.
pull
in
that
Forsyth.
microphone up just a little bit? There you go.
Okay, better? I own the property at 3834 Fulton Mill. One is all the land behind. We're going to build these tract homes. They're building homes in a swamp, folks. I was raised on that property. There's 2 tracks going up through there. There's water on top of the ground, probably 3 months out of the year. Going to be, if you talk to the previous owner of the property, Mac Minton, I talked with him this morning. He agrees with me. It's a swamp. And you're going to have to do major filling to build houses in there, because say Thanksgiving through about this time of year, it's wet. You can drive a T-post in the ground, you'll hit a hard pan, and then once you reach a certain section, you'll hit that T-post one more time, and it'll go down a foot at a time, because it's just soggy and wet in there. bird hunted that piece of property right there growing up, and you can't walk across it in the winter in a pair of sneakers because you'll have wet feet the whole time. All of that is a point source drain. It drains all the way down to approximately right above the bridge, goes under Fulton Mill, and point source drains into Toposophy Creek. So once you remove the absorption factor of the property, you know, the water that goes into the ground, and they build these houses and put the cement and the paving and everything else, you're going to vastly increase the amount of water that's going to the creek as stormwater. Okay, I've worked as a health, safety, environmental manager for 3 Fortune 500 companies, and worked as an environmental engineer for about 6 years with Amoco. Water permitting, air permitting, NPDES permitting. While it may not be technically in the floodplain of the river or the 100-year floodplain, you don't have to be in a floodplain to be a wetland. They change the definitions of wetlands frequently. Depends upon which administration's in Washington. If you're a farmer under the Obama and possibly the Biden administration, if you got a ditch going across there, they can regulate your ditch because it contains a puddle of water. Under the Trump administration, they changed it back, but they're in the process of changing it back here under the agricultural regulations. I got a call into the NRC to see what their determination is on the property, but I haven't heard back from them yet. You know, I'm glad to hear that they attempted to call the dog pound and the other neighbors. They never attempted to call me to ask for my input on what this development would do to me. Okay, obviously, when you all of a sudden you find out you're going to have 300 to 400 neighbors off your property line, you have some concerns. Okay. I have enough trouble as it is now trying to keep trespassers off the property, going in, opening cattle gates, things of that nature. You know, we really don't want cows wandering around out in Fulton Mill Road. Like he said, to them it's vacant property. To me it's pasture and hayland. Okay? In the future it may be something different. You know, my property value is probably going to be determined by the county and what they do with their industrial park next door. They've tried to market it as a light industrial, and if they're successful, mine may be light industrial. They're not going to want light industrial in their backyard. They're probably not going to want agricultural in their backyard because there's going to be noises and smells. You know, you put chicken litter out for your pastures. That. Eventually, there may be a chicken house back there. They're probably not going to like that. That is part of what's being zoned agricultural. You know, I don't know what your 2040 plan is as far as what my property's all of a sudden going to be developed to. Y'all haven't consulted me either. It's been a family farm for about 100 years. I don't see that changing unless something comes along, you know, light industrial or solar farm or whatever. I have to make a living off that property. You got 300 or 400 people move in next door and start telling you what you can and can't do. It is a concern. If they do move in next door and build houses in a low-lying area, I am going to strongly suggest and request that it be fenced just like they fenced Lake Wildwood. This is a lot denser housing than Lake Wildwood is. I don't think anybody here can call Lake Wildwood a booming success. That we need more Lake Wildwoods in Bibb County. But those are some of my concerns at present. Like I said, I didn't start finding out about this. I heard from Mac Minton that they were talking about putting 95 houses in. I assumed, as he did, that you were going to have 95 houses on approximately 200 acres, you know, residential property. I didn't find out anything about apartments and everything else until last night, when we really started digging into getting some of this information off the websites and all. Those are some of my concerns.
Thank you very much.
I have 45 seconds left for Ms. Honeycutt.
How much time?
And Commissioner Wilder is also signed up.
Excuse me. I'm Raymond Wilder. I am the commissioner for this district. And I'm mainly here because I also live on Fulton Mill Road. I live at 5929 Fulton Mill Road, which is the far end, but I travel this road daily. My big concern is going to be traffic. We already have a traffic issue at that intersection of Dixon Road. There has been fatalities there recently. They are finally building the roundabout as we speak at US 80 and Fulton Mill Road, which has been a long time coming. There was a lot of discussion about traffic light or roundabout back then, and they said due to the rural area, the roundabout would be better. This will totally change that. The 95 single dwelling homes alone are going to increase the traffic drastically out there. And the other phases, even more so. So my main thing has been traffic safety. There has been mentioned that there has been an ordinance passed that any new neighborhoods have got to have sidewalks. But like I say, the apartment complexes, the hotels, all the other things that are much larger concern the residents of District 6 heavily, because myself and most people that are out there because it's rural. And most of us have 2 to 3 acres minimum for our property, with the exception of some of the neighborhoods, which are still close to an acre each. And it's just going to be, it's a major concern of all of my constituents, and we just like y'all all to consider the traffic and safety issues we'll be facing out there.
Thank you very much.
That was over.
Okay. Y'all can come back and for a rebuttal if you'd like. How much time do they get?
45 seconds over it, so it'll be 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Well, we certainly appreciate your concerns, and we have experienced the same kind of comments and other developments. The flood map, the flooding concerns, he's correct. It's all part of but it's part of civil design. Those things need to be addressed. I'm not familiar that the property is a wet area. If it is, that's part of the civil engineers and the soil borings results to make that a workable product that works with the NPDES and the Georgia Water and Soil Conservation Commission. As far as traffic concerns, certainly it's going to increase traffic. I'm not going to sit here and not expect that it won't, but that's part of development, future development. And being that this is a long-range product, long-range plan, those problems can be addressed as they arise. But right now, we're in the initial phases, obviously, and the safety, safety and traffic sort of go together. But this is a long-range plan. They're not going to see a transformation overnight. There's plenty of time to address issues that arise and solve those problems.
Okay. All right. Did you want to say anything else?
I was just going to second the floodplain question. On the survey, the surveyor notated some areas of like a waters of the state and areas that cannot be developed. But we did also check the overall floodplain areas, and it did not appear that there were any on the property. Now, from appearances, in this phase, I cannot say whether the maps are accurate, but that would be something to be explored as part of the civil. The hydrology study will tell all the water coming, to the area. And to the gentleman with the farm next door, I live next door to a big agricultural area just like that. And my neighbor's cows come to my fence every single night and they line up in a row. And to me, it's actually a delight to be able to go out there and see the cows next door. I would actually just welcome to be a house next to a farm like that. There is a chicken house down the road for me. It doesn't really bother me, but just as far as the residential being right next door to a farm, I kind of like it personally where I live. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, gentlemen, any questions, any discussion?
I had a concern about the water and flooding, but I think it was addressed to my satisfaction.
Well, if they're gonna buy a piece of property, I am sure they're gonna figure all that out before they put the money down.
They've asked at this point for the rezoning as well as the conditional use to allow conceptual approval and final site plan for the 95 single lots family subdivision. I have no issue with rezoning at this point from ag, but I got a few more questions about the conditional use, probably for the subdivision. There's
All right, anybody have any issues with the rezoning from PD to PDE? If not, we'll move on to the conditional use. What you got, Gary?
just some of the things that were brought up earlier
Okay.
with the the water and things and the traffic and things. I just think we ought to have more information about how that's going to be resolved, because I mean, I saw the traffic numbers for the road, and they're not high for daily use, but you're going to increase mainly on a section from going back toward Eisenhower, where you've got the problematic intersection there with Dixon and Fulton Mill, as well as the pressure on the bridge, which I think is probably needs to be on a list for replacement at some point. It's been out there a long time, and I'm certain it got, it took the beating on the '94 flood, as many others did. So I just think we need more information about how we're going to resolve that traffic issue with either one of the two entrances into the planned subdivision. And I can make a motion on the rezoning, but I've got some questions on the conditional use.
I think I have problems on both of them, the PDE and the conditional use. I mean, it just seems to me like not a very compatible use with the adjacent areas. And looking at the standards for rezoning, I think it's perfectly useful as it is for a purpose that's not this. And I can think of a lot of other areas in the county that are a lot better suited to accommodate this kind of increase in intensity and traffic. I'm all in favor of density, but I think it makes sense to put density where it's got access to amenities and services that complement the uses. And I don't see that here. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Is I don't see a need for the rezoning on the existing agricultural uses.
Tim? Any comments?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning from ag to PDE to allow a mixed-use development. But I want to wait on the conditional use.
Okay, do I have a second? Do I have an amendment?
I mean, we might be a hung jury here. I'd make a motion to deny, but
I forget how we do this.
yeah, Jim.
They died from lack of
We have a
second.
motion on the table that does not have a second.
Yeah.
Don't have a motion on the
So,
table.
That died.
Is that what you call it? Tell me what it is?
It died for the lack of a second.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we have no motion because it has died. Do I have another motion?
I make a motion to deny the rezoning to PDE.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Josh, second by Tim, to deny the motion for rezoning at 4031 Fulton Mill Road. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. So if we don't have a rezoning, we can't
Have the vote go, it was a motion to deny, so you had
deny.
favor, denial,
One.
denial.
3 to 1 is
Okay.
okay.
4 to 0 or 3 to 1?
That is
How did Gary vote on that?
On the denial.
Denial, and,
he made the motion.
okay,
No.
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 No, that one died. Josh made it.
Okay.
I second the motion.
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Voted in favor of denial.
Yes, in
Okay,
favor
right.
of denial.
Okay.
Yes. We got it now? All right. I'm sorry. Okay, now ratification.
I've lost the agenda.
Blah, blah, blah,
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the ratification item on the agenda. Got inundated today.
Quick phase.
869 Walnut Street.
That's the only one.
869 Walnut.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
We have a motion by Josh and a second by Tim to approve the ratification item at 869 Walnut Street. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Motion to adjourn.
Hey, don't we, we're not
Motion
gonna deal
and
with
a second.
535 College?
What?
We withdrew that because they didn't.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried.